welcome to another episode of Triad Expeditions. In this episode, we are going to discuss the Magnuson Supercharger. This supercharger is relatively new. Magnuson has released a supercharger for the 2010 FJ and also the current 4Runner model, going back for this generation several years actually. So you'll be able to look that information up to make sure that this product does apply to your application. So the reason why we decided to get a supercharger is because we have added a ton of weight to our vehicle. We have larger tires, we have accessories, fridge, those type of things, all the things that normally a FJ doesn't have, steel bumpers, and that's what we're going to be discussing. So this video is going to be part one of part three. Part one is basically discussing the decision that we made to buy a supercharger and some of the modifications that we've done to the vehicle. We've done previous videos that talk about the modifications, and you can definitely watch those. We will talk about some of the newer additions or the latest additions to the vehicle later in this video, but it really will be talking about the supercharger here in the beginning. So part two will be actually the install process, and we'll be highlighting the install process as the supercharger gets installed at RC Enterprises, which is a local shop to us here in Central Ohio. We'll have some details about where you can reach them at if you're interested in having work done by them. They have a state-of-the-art shop, and it's a very, very nice shop, recently rebuilt, and they spared no expense making sure that they are able to take care of your vehicle as good as possible. So you will see more information in that in part two, and then part three will actually be basically showing the result of the supercharger and how we have appreciated the extra power and how things are working out, how it is actually doing what we hope that it's going to do, and so that will be part three. So make sure to subscribe, and so I'm sure that you heard that. So anyways, we're outside, we're out here in the country, and so if you hear something screaming like that, that is the goats next door. It's our outdoor studio here, so I do apologize for the background noise and any wind noise that we may have. It is a little bit windy here today. So why get a Magnuson supercharger? Well, first off, Magnuson's been making superchargers for a very long time. In fact, they were the ones that made the superchargers for Toyota, originally the TRD series of superchargers, which are no longer offered. But Magnuson does probably offer a supercharger for your Toyota vehicle, so you should definitely check into it. Now, we decided to get this supercharger from Sparks Toyota, and the reason why is because they stock all of those superchargers, which is pretty crazy, really. They keep them in stock. Not saying they won't run out of one occasionally, but the really important thing about that is that they run these superchargers in production schedules. So if they are out of them and all the distributors are out of them, you may not be able to find one, but Sparks probably does have one because they really pride themselves in stocking these. So I definitely recommend that you check out Sparks Toyota Parts. You can find them by Googling Sparks Toyota Parts. They're located in South Carolina, so the location you find is located in South Carolina. And also I'm going to show you a link. I'll include a link below with their actual address. So that link will be right down here. And there you go, you got it, okay. So back to the FJ. I am going to show you, basically I'm going to step aside here. Now these are the details of the FJ. So it weighs a lot more than it used to. You'll see the original weight of the FJ. Most FJs weigh this much. Our FJ weighs this much. This is the GVW, and this is how much we're over. Okay, that's part of the equation. Now the rest of the equation is our trailer. Okay, so this is a picture of our trailer. It's a custom built teardrop trailer. You can also see more videos about that. We made a video about our decision making and design features of the teardrop, so you definitely want to check that out if you like the trailer that you see. But the trailer has bikes on it, it has kayaks, it has an AC system, it has a generator, and I'm going to show you the details of how much that trailer weighs. So here are the details of the trailer, how much it weighs, and as you can see, it's definitely heavy. So that is what we've been dealing with. And to give you a description of what the performance is with the FJ, we re-geared to 4, 5, 6 gears with Nitro gears. That helped tremendously, and it didn't seek as much, but still going through the mountains, it does seek out of a cruising speed, drops down into a lower gear, and it's just kind of cycling all the time. And if you guys have a built FJ or a built Toyota 4Runner for that matter, you will know exactly what I mean. Some of the modifications that we've done a video basically showing some of the original modifications to the vehicle, and we have a lot of the same stuff. We still have a very heavy bumper on there, made by Expedition 1. It's a steel bumper, and it's going to hold up really well. I know there's some lighter options out there, and a lot of folks say, well, you know, get an aluminum bumper, and that will definitely save you some weight. I like the steel bumper. I know it's going to hold up well. I know I can pull from it. I know the winch is solid on there. So we're going to keep it. And also, I just want to mention that this bumper has been on here for 4 years now, and the powder coating has held up beautifully. There's been no flaking, and that's something I hear a lot about different bumpers out there as far as the quality of the powder coating. This has held up really well. I've had to do very little touch-up on this whatsoever. All right, coming around here into the cab. One of the things I want to show you here is basically just some of our thought process on how we organize the vehicle. And some of you that are new to FJs or trying to get your rig basically set up for overlanding or off-road use, you know, this might help you. So we removed the back seats. It's just Chrissy and I, so we don't need the back seats. And we have our recovery gear here underneath, so it's very handy to get to. All of our like tree savers and stuff like that. We have rope. Rope is very important out on the trail, and you really should always have some rope with you, because you never know when you might need to rescue somebody from a lower place, if you know, or a water crossing or whatever it might be. Rope can really save you. So I recommend a rope with a carabiner on there. Really not much else on this side. We'll move around to the back here. All right, so here in the back, we've done some changes over time. This is basically like 3/4 plywood that's been mounted, and the good thing about that is even like Goose Gear uses plywood with their plate system. They just cover it, they just line exit. So this is 3/4 plywood, like marine grade, really nice stuff. And then this is a recycled rubber mat that I bought at Home Depot, and it's really big. And this material works really good. It's held up extremely well. Just a piece of angle aluminum on there. And then our drawer system that we use, it is not intended for overland use. It's not an ARB. It's not any of those brands. It's not for Front Runner. Not saying those aren't great systems, but they're pretty expensive. And then the freight on them is really expensive because they're actually coming from Australia. So what this is, it's a product made in the USA. It's all aluminum, which is cool. It's not plastic. It's not composite. It's all aluminum, and it slides out really nicely. It's no more heavier than any of the other products that are out there. Some products even, you know, people will use wood. That's definitely more heavy, and it's always subject to rot. You know, this has great sliders on them, a nice heavy duty latch here, and we keep like our tools in here, anything that you would need, you know, spare coolant, our stove, those type of things. It's all very, very handy right here. But I really recommend the better built system. They're not nearly as expensive either. I think this drawer was somewhere around $700 shipped, maybe less than that. I think maybe less than that. I know it was going to be like $1,200 a piece just for an ARB drawer system. So about half the price is, I think, what I figured out at the time. It's been a while. So this is an ARB extended drawer, and most of you have probably seen these before, and that's the ARB tie downs. Engel fridge. The reason why we really like the Engel fridge is because it actually has a Japanese design compressor, one moving part. There's great fridges out there, and I know, you know, there's many brands that are made. I'm not going to bash ARB fridges, but I will tell you that this wasn't our first try on a fridge. This wasn't our first pick. Our first pick was actually an ARB fridge. It showed up and it didn't work. It would not hold temperature. So I I've heard the stories before. I actually wish I would have done more research because other folks have had that same experience before. So four-wheel off-road parts was nice enough to take it back and not give us any questions whatsoever about it and credit us our money back. We ended up ordering this Engel. We've had it for a couple of years. It's been absolutely flawless. It's not fancy with a digital gauge or whatever, but you set it, you put your thermometer in there, and it keeps temperature just fine. All right, so moving on. We have a power tank right there, so we can air up quickly once we've aired down on the trail. We do have a compressor also, just in case we need to use a compressor. But compressors take a long time. Those small little compressors. Now ARB makes one that's pretty decent. That will definitely compress it up there pretty quick because it does take a lot to compress these 285, 75 or 70, 17-inch tires. Those are mounted. Those are Nitro tires mounted on Method racing wheels. They've been great also, and I'm still a big fan of the Trail Grappler MTs. They've held up really good. They've worn really good, and they're not all that noisy on the road. All right. So moving around here, this is actually, I'm going to try to get out of the way as much as possible because this is something I think is actually pretty nice that I came up with. So that is a National Luna portable power pack, and National Luna makes some great stuff, especially when it comes to dual battery systems. There's actually a battery in there. It's a Odyssey Extreme battery. They are one of our sponsors, and their batteries are really good, and they've held up really good for our use. They'll definitely handle the extreme conditions that you can put them through, and the cold weather, the hot weather. So the way that I have this set up is basically this cable here runs down and then goes forward into the compartment. This is a typical setup that they recommend when you are using the National Luna Power Pack, that you hook it up. Basically, it has a fuse in line, but this is a little bit different here in the fact that we have two marine grade Pro Mariner Pro Sport 6s. Each one of those one goes to the main battery here. This one goes to the power pack. They're labeled as such. And so when we plug in this pigtail here with a splitter, it basically, we run it through the window and we have these vent shades. And basically if we are at a campsite or we have our EU 2000 running, we'll go ahead and plug it in and top off the batteries as we're there. But you know, a lot of times you have power available to you. We don't have solar just because really I think with our EU 2000 it does a great job. It's very quiet. Maybe someday we will go with solar, but it's just one more thing and more weight. This system really works really good. We have an inverter over there that we can plug in. I made this little pigtail so that if we want, it's an Anderson pigtail, so it's just basically like a splitter. So I can plug that into the power pack and get power there, run this to the inverter, and still actually plug this into the charger. So if I want to run the inverter and still have the charger hooked up to it, I can. So there's all kinds of different configurations that you can use with this. If you want to run a compressor, you can, and still have the fridge going, because the fridge plugs in right here. It just gives you all kinds of different possibilities. If you want to run something off of the main battery, you can unplug this here. And so I won't really go into too much detail about this because there's just so many different possibilities. I think the biggest thing about this is kind of like my profession as a fireman. You know, we use hose obviously to move water around, and we don't have switches. We do have valves, obviously we do have valves, but it's more about like if you need something to go somewhere, you just basically plug it in or unplug it. Switches can get complicated. They're a failure point. Really just keep it simple is the approach that I had with this. You know, and we really don't have like a main power block or anything else like that. We will be getting, that is one of the additions that we do want to get, is a Switch Pro for all of our lighting. So that's to come. That'll go over on the driver's side and then underneath the hood. So that's how we do our dual battery setup. Our cooking supplies are up there. Everything is strapped down. We have L-track in there. That is really key. We use Pelican cases, and then we strap the Pelican cases down with cinch straps. using the L track, and that is really key. You absolutely do not want to have cargo that is not restrained. And then I just used like L brackets down here and tied the L bracket in to the seat attachments down there, and then there's more attachment points in the back where it goes actually through the floorboard of the cargo space. We added a snorkel and several jerry cans, the outriggers. Now, one thing I'll talk about this real quick. So there's not really like a kit that you can just go out there and buy an outrigger kit. At least not one I was able to find. And so these are actually high lift jack mounts for round tube. That with a threaded eyelet on here. So if you're wondering like where did you get that bracket from, that's where it came from. And then basically just stainless steel hardware, some turnbuckles to tension them up, and then the D-ring up there is purposely underbuilt. I wanted to have at least one place in the system where it was a weak link, and that carabiner up there being not really a heavy duty carabiner, that's the weak link. So if this was to be pushed down by something that is more sturdy than I really feel like it is, and it's not going to want to push up and away from the vehicle, that's going to basically pull apart and not destroy my roof and my Baja rack. So that's the idea with that. The snorkel here, if we do get into a lot of brush and there's branches coming up here, it's going to hit, but if you just basically loosen this up, you can actually spin it around, and then the profile is actually pretty good. I could actually shorten this probably just a little bit also, which would get it even further down, but it's actually really decent. And then with it curved up that way, it's actually kind of push up. It's going to want to kind of just push up as it comes up here and then go right off the back. So that's another thing to keep in mind. You can run it that way so that the air is going in, kind of being forced in, but if you're out on the trail, you should spin that around. And then we added some piaalights, and then I do have a video on how to install these, so you might want to check that out. If you have a snorkel, you're definitely going to want to watch that video, so definitely check that out. All right, well, that's it for now. Definitely subscribe, like this video if you found it to be useful, and make sure to hit the little bell next to the subscription button, because that will notify you via email or however you have it set up when we do release this next video. And I look forward to doing that. The next video should be coming out in the next couple weeks at the very longest, because the Supercharger was in stock. They actually sent it out the next day, so you can't ask for any better than that. And so it should be in this week, and we'll be going over to RC Enterprises, doing the video over there during the install, and then part 3 will be the result of it. So everybody take care, be safe.